Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Lauren, I'm a food photographer and I run the food photography site That's Sage.
Oh wait, sorry. Okay, I just want to make sure that I lock it.
Oh, you can lock it?
Yeah.
Oh, how do you lock it?
You just push it to hold. And then it locks and then you can...
Oh, so then it doesn't do anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice, okay.
Okay.
Let's do that again. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, I'm a food photographer and I run the food photography website That's Sage. Today I'm here with my friend Jeremy and we are going to be talking all about the gear we use. I'm going to take you through everything that I use for my food photography, what I use it for, and then I'm also going to let Jeremy explain all the gear he has and what he uses it for. So do you want to introduce yourself to them and what you do?
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, I'm Jeremy. I'm a photographer and a filmmaker. I started photography maybe like 2.5 years ago and video making for a while, but not really seriously. And maybe just recently I started doing it more professionally and try and experiment into different fields, and that's what I sort of did. So with Lauren I did a bit of food videography and a bit of food photography, and then you know, I guess we also work in other fields like wedding videos and wedding photos and corporate advertisements and stuff like that. But as I do this, I'm also learning a lot, and it's been a great journey. You know, it's great.
Yeah, so I'm going to link all of Jeremy's stuff down below. Make sure you check him out, he is awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with the cameras that we use. So it's actually because of Jeremy that recently I switched over from Canon to Sony. I've probably been wanting to switch to Sony for quite a long time, and Jeremy, I would say, forced me into making the jump.
Persuaded.
So I currently am shooting on a Sony A7 III. This is a pretty new camera. I think it came out this year, right? 2018?
Yeah.
Yep. It has a 24 megapixel sensor. It's got incredible autofocus and it's a really, really great all-rounder. So whether you want to do mostly photography or videography, it's a really nice bridge between the A7R and the A7S. And so far, I love it. I think the colors are amazing. It films, the film comes out amazing. So I'm super, super happy with this camera. And yeah, so that's what I'm shooting on right now and I'm loving it.
Currently, my main camera is the camera we're shooting this video on. It's the A7R II. I use that predominantly for photos. You know, it's a great sensor. 42 megapixels is a bit overkill for most of my users, but it can't hurt, I guess, except for memory. It also has, you know, inbuilt stabilization. It's a fantastic camera overall. The only thing, I also do some good videos on it. It takes good videos. It takes good 4K videos. It takes 60 frames per second on slow motion at full HD. The only thing is that it doesn't do more than 60 frames per second, and that's where I use the second camera, the A6500, which does 120 frames per second. And this is a crop frame, which is also really useful actually. Sometimes it sort of gives you a different option with your full frame lenses, what you want to take. I mean, I don't always want to have a full frame sort of look. But again, I'm very jealous of the A7 III because it does both the 4K and it does the 120 FPS.
120, yeah, which is it for food. I think having a slightly higher frame rate, if you want to do like those really cool shots where you have like, you know, you're dropping something or you just want to have a really smooth, fluid movement, the 120 really makes a difference. Like, it's really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess now we talk about the lenses.
I have one more camera.
Oh, you have one more camera, of course.
It's another Sony. This is the Sony RX100 Mark IV. So I've had this for about 3 years now. There is actually, since I got this, they've brought out a Mark V and very recently a Mark VI. But to be honest, the difference between the Mark IV and the Mark VI for me is not big enough to warrant buying it again. Like, this does everything I need it to. Now this camera is a powerhouse. You may think this is just a compact camera, it's tiny, but oh my goodness, this thing is powerful. I mean, the photos that come off it are incredible, but some of the more like interesting features are the high frame rate settings. So this will allow you to film in up to 1,000 frames per second. Now, I will say you probably would never want to because I think it maxes out at 480p at the 1,000, so I really don't touch that. But you also get more options at 500 frames per second, 250, 120, 60 and or 30, yeah, exactly. So most of the time for this, the slowest or the fastest I go with the frame rate is 240 because that is just a tiny bit less than full HD. So I think you really don't notice the difference. And we have done some super cool shots with this in our food video. So I'm going to insert something right now where you can see like just that detailed movement that you get. It's almost like those food adverts where you see like M&S. It's as good as it looks or whatever.
It's very cool stuff. I mean, I guess I only heard of the RX, so I've only seen it in use when you showed it to me, and I really was mind blown by it.
Yeah. So I think if you're looking for something small and portable that's going to allow you to do some really powerful video, particularly when you're out and about, then definitely consider the RX 100 series. When I got my Sony A7 III, this was also my first full frame camera. So before that, I've been through all the brands. I started on Nikon, then I moved to a Canon 80D, and now I finally landed on my Sony full frame. So I have kind of switched around my lenses every time that I've changed my camera. So now that I'm on a full frame, I've got 3 prime lenses, and those are my go-to for pretty much everything. So the first lens that I have is the Sigma Art series in the 35mm. Now, I love the Sigma Art series. They are such good quality lenses, and I've got my eye on the 50mm for one day, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and keep going with this one.
See, we have a small problem.
We really do have a small problem. So because this is the lens, I actually shot with this on my Canon because you can shoot with this on a crop frame or a full frame camera. So I did actually also, when I got this camera, I bought the adapter. So for the Canon mount to the Sony mount, and that allows me to keep using this lens. Yeah, so 35mm is a pretty wide lens. So mostly I use this if I want to do a top-down shot of quite a big table, or when I've got a lot to capture in the frame. The next lens that I have is the Sony Zeiss 50mm f1.8. Now this is considerably smaller than the last one, but I love it. It's a great lens. I think
my favorite lens.
Yeah, it's amazing. The quality is incredible. I find f1.8 is plenty wide enough, especially for food photography. I mean, this Sigma is an f1.4, but I really very rarely will shoot with the lens wide open. So I think, you know, if you're looking to save a bit of money, definitely f1.8 is gonna do you perfectly fine in most situations.
But in comparison, this I had this exact same lens, and I was saying this is my ultimate favorite lens. But unfortunately, the last time we shot on a project together, it rolled off the table and it got damaged.
It was definitely not my fault.
So, you know, at that point in time, I think I was considering getting a replacement. You know, I mean, I definitely wanted to go back to the same lens, but then I thought this lens just came out, which is the 50mm 1.4, and it's a lot bigger. I mean, it's basically the same, but you have one more stop of light. And I just sort of got tempted, I guess, to try out something new. And for me, the extra stop of light with the 1.4 helps a lot in low light photography, in night portraits, in street photography sometimes when you have basically a night in the dark condition, or you really need that extra stop of light.
Really cool. And the last prime lens that I use, all my lenses are prime, is this. Again, it's a Sony Zeiss 90mm macro f2.8. I would say this is my favorite. Out of all of the lenses that I have, this is the one that I probably have on my camera 80% of the time, yeah. And that's because for food photography, I just find whenever you're shooting at that straight on or 45-degree angle, I really want that tight field of view because I don't want anything looking warped. I don't want it looking like fishbowled or anything like that. And this, not only does it really allow me to get that sort of view that I want, but the macro just really allows you to get up close. It's just, oh, I love it so much. I've taken some of my favorite photos on that lens. So I'm super glad I got that one. All right, what's next?
Next, I guess since you're talking about the 90mm,
This is my favorite one.
My lens that sort of fulfills that focal length. It's the 70-200 f2.8 G Master. It's actually my newest lens, and it's also a big one. I used to use the f4 G lens, and I really love this 70-200mm. I think this is the only zoom I ever used for this focal length. I had the 24-70, but I really realized that I prefer primes most of the time. Only at this focal length, I say, gives me the versatility of being fast and quick on my feet when I'm doing some portrait shoots, or maybe even when you're traveling, you can really take some pretty cool landscape shots. You know, if you see a mountain in the way in the distance and you want to get something that sort of captures more of the detail and that is a bit further away, this really captures the detail and preserves the sharpness, and it's great. I mean, 2.8, you can take some pretty good low light shots in that as well.
I think a lot of what we do with photography comes down to like the extra little pieces that you can add to your camera that make every little job you do just a little bit easier or a bit more accurate. So do you want to start?
Yeah, so let's talk about, okay, I will also talk about some stuff I use for my video work. So one of the best investments I ever had is a gimbal stabilizer. And seriously, this is the Zirin crane, and this has changed the way I shoot on my projects so much. It has allowed me to take those smooth handheld pan shots. It has helped me take shots which require slow motion and get me running at fast speed with like your subjects and your camera shots. If you know how to use it and you know how to pan your stuff properly, it's so smooth and it's so clean. This is amazing. Definitely an investment. I can't remember, it's a couple of $100, but worth every dollar if you're into videos. We can talk about audio.
Oh yeah, audio. We're actually complete audio buddies.
Yes,
So we both have the Rode Smartlav mic, which we're both wearing right now. This is a great mic. It costs about, what, $60 or so?
Yep.
It's a stereo mic, which you don't often get with lav mics, so that's really nice. And then we both also use a Zoom H4n recorder, and then plug the microphone directly into this, and then in post-production, so in Premiere Pro, we can sync up the audio with what the camera's recording. And this just allows you to have like way better quality audio. So it's just a nice touch if you're making videos for YouTube or... Yeah,
I say this Rode Lav with the H4n is a super powerful combination. I just did a corporate video for the ETH University, one of the departments, and we were walking through the busy old town of Zurich with cars passing by on a bridge and boats passing by and trams passing by, and you could really isolate the sound of the speaker. And the quality was amazing considering everything. It's a fantastic combination to use.
Next thing that I probably use the most is this cable. Now this is a tethering cable. So this allows me to connect my camera to my laptop so that when I'm shooting, I get a big live preview of what I can see on my camera screen. It also allows me to control my camera remotely, which just makes, where food photography can kind of be in like awkward positions or like you just have to be really careful. So this just helps me like kind of step away from my camera and not touch it, not knock it, anything like that. So use this. I have a blog post all about tethering, including a link so you can find out which exact cable you need for your camera. So I'll link that down below.
So one other piece of equipment I use that comes in really handy on my shoots, both photography and videography, is this thing called the Aperture ALM9. It's so small. Look at this, it's crazy, but it's super powerful. Like look how bright it goes. It's crazy bright. Look at it. Like,
it is bright.
Yeah.
And we're actually using it today to film this video as like a fill light, which is pretty cool. Okay, so probably next thing for me, just a really quick mention of this, which is a remote shutter. I don't use this a lot anymore because I tether instead, which allows me to release the shutter from my computer. But if you don't tether, then I would just say grab one of these, plugs into your camera, and then you just push this button to take the photo rather than actually touching your camera and causing like any kind of camera shake. Another thing that I use a lot is a white balance card. Now, if you saw my last video, which I will link up here on how to set a custom white balance, I talk you through exactly how to use this. But basically this is just a small card with a white side and a grey side that allows you to set a custom white balance on your camera. So in terms of lighting, most of you will know that I'm a big fan of using artificial light for food photography. I find it really consistent and I just really like working with it. I have a whole video on my artificial light setup, but basically what I use is the Pixapro LED 200D Mark II, and then I attach a large softbox to that. So the one that I use now is 150 centimeters, but I'm actually looking to get a bit of a smaller one because it's kind of a beast. But yeah, so I find that combination, it's a continuous light, so I just get a complete view of how my picture's going to look. It's really easy to work with. I often use the honeycomb grid on top of the softbox now just to make the light a little bit more directional, and yeah, that's...
But speaking about that as well, it's also useful for videos. We shot the entire Food Compose trailer.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And I think that it helps you really capture, I mean, it gives you a lot of variability to the shots that you want to take. And it's very important that it's a DC, right?
It is DC, yeah.
So you can really do those high frame rate, high shutter speed shots without the flickering in the light. And that's what we did a lot with the way that we composed the foods. I think it was the quinoa dropping and stuff like that, and the powdered sugar dropping, and that was so useful. It was my first time using artificial light, but I was immediately convinced that
yeah, we're nearly there.
Yes, we are nearly there. Okay.
Another thing that I always shoot with is a tripod. Now we're actually using my tripod right now to film on, but I use a Manfrotto 190 tripod, which has extendable legs with 3 different brackets, and then I often will attach a boom arm to that as well, and I'll link both of those down below as well.
Cool. And yeah, I use my tripod more on the go because I do a lot of travel photography as well. So
you have the Manfrotto like super lightweight one, don't you?
The Manfrotto B-free carbon fiber. It's super light. When I first got it, when I got a box, I thought it was empty. But also, really useful with a tripod, of course, is the ND filter. I got predominantly, I use this the most, which is a 1000 Pro ND filter by Hoya. It stops 10 stops of light. And I got one of the biggest, I think it is the biggest, I'm not sure, 82mm ring, and then I just use the step-up rings so that I save money. And I just buy one filter, and so I just use the step-up rings on all my lenses. Okay, speaking about things that we learn, unfortunately, I guess if you know, with our small problem, we can also buy things that we realized was super unnecessary, and some stuff hopefully isn't too expensive, but some stuff, in my case, is a bit too expensive, and it was like an expensive lesson. When I was getting into this videography business or this videography passion more professionally, I thought I needed everything. I wanted to have the best things that people use. So I really literally Googled things that professional videographers must have. And I thought I was a professional then, but I mean, I'm not exactly a professional now, but still. I got this Atomos Ninja Assassin, which by far is an incredible monitor. It helps you shoot really great uncompressed footage. But at least when I was starting out, I was doing a lot of travel videography and travel shoots, even wedding stuff, right? This is super overkill and super not portable. Look at this. I mean, we tried to put it on the top of this camera when we were filming, and it's like huge. Bigger than the camera. Yeah, and it's not light. I mean, it's
pretty hefty.
Yeah, again,
it is cool.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
It is a useful device, definitely. I'm not saying that it's a stupid device. It is a great device. It's just that it was completely, and it's still not what I need at all.
Yeah.
So this was an expensive lesson, and I would say please be smarter than me and learn from my mistake.
Yeah.
Do your research, basically.
Do your research. Yeah. How much are you really going to use this thing?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, obviously we both have an abundance of the basic stuff like memory cards, batteries, like all that kind of boring stuff. So we're not going to show you that. I guess I just wanted to touch really quickly on this, which is my external hard drive. We both use external hard drives. I think you don't use.
I do.
Oh, you do?
AC, yeah.
Now these are great because they come with this rubber cover. So like if you drop it, it's going to bounce. It's not going to get damaged. This one is a terabyte, which is good because everything I shoot is RAW format, and everything you shoot should also be RAW format.
Yeah.
So this is just really great. I know that I'm not going to run out of space for a really long time. Cool, so that is everything that we currently own and use and what we use it for. If you have any questions about any of the gear we've talked about, just drop me a comment and we'll get back to you. You can always send me an email, and I also have a blog post link down below with links to everything that we talked about. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and thank you to Jeremy also for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, subscribe if you are not already. Don't forget to hit the notification bell button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.